We meet every Tuesday at 3:30 in the Student Engagement Center to look over requests. So right now what we're going to do is we're going to go through a training seminar, if you will, and cover three things. We're going to cover events, travel, and what the present form looks like that you'll be interacting with to request funds. So first off, to reiterate what Tyler said earlier, we are the Budget Oversight Committee. We meet on Tuesdays at 3:30 in the SGA office. We work with SLCs who are like Brooke and Molly, are in the Student Engagement Office taking your questions and doing administrative work and helping you guys out with all things student engagement. And then we have Miss Juliet Butler, who really runs the show. She is who you're going to meet with for forms, paperworks, and all the big questions that you have. She also is in the Student Engagement Office. This here is the budget period. So this graph represents when the form or the funding opens and when the funds can be spent on travel or activities. Like Tyler said before, policy from the university is dynamic and changing, and as of right now, policies prohibit travel. So funding requests for travel on the basis of that will not be happening. So we will not be funding travel, but next year we will when the semester opens up and more willing will be out of the pandemic. But this year is also in your manuals, I do believe, in the handouts y'all receive. And like I said earlier, it's the funding opening date and for when that funding can be spent on either travel or activity. So the funding process works like this. You go into present, you submit a form by 4:30 on the Friday that week, 4 weeks before when the travel or event will happen. So you must submit that via Presence, which is the online form, and you must have attended this training, and you're limited to 2 requests per week for events. So 2 requests per week events, two requests per week for events, and you are capped monetarily at $4 grand for an event and $1,500 for travel. This right here is what 4 weeks looks like. So on the 2nd, you can see the submission for the funding request, 4 budget oversight meetings, and then after the 28th, on or after, is when that event or travel can happen. So in order to be eligible for funding, you must be a good standing student organization with student engagement. So you must have your forms submitted, officers plugged into Presence, and the Student Engagement Office recognize that. You have to have your president and treasurer attend one of these trainings. And you, again, must be in good standing with student engagement and have your forms in order. For new RSOs, there's a different set of hurdles you guys have to jump through. You have to wait a semester before applying for allocation funding. But you may apply on the 1st of November for a travel or event happening on the 1st of January. So again, like all student organizations, you must be good in standing and have your forms squared away. So you all have a handbook in y'all's folder, and that's the pretty much guidebook by which we judge y'all's allocation requests and approve or deny them. So if we deviate from that book and we make mistakes, you guys can appeal a denied allocation request. That rarely happens. I don't think it's ever happened in my time here. But in the event that happens, that appeal will go to the student engagement form on Presence, and exec will look over it. And if it has grounds, it will then be bumped up to Senate, and then Senate will either approve or deny it. And whatever Senate says is final. So if it's denied, it's denied. If it's approved, it's approved. So where we can help is in program support. So that is events that are non-alcoholic socials, where there's speakers, where there's movies. We can help y'all with that. We can also help with equipment. The Student Engagement Office is packed full of all sorts of equipment y'all can check out and utilize for your events. And for some, you can even purchase equipment, but you have to bear in mind that equipment, if purchased with university funds, is therefore property of the university, so you cannot keep it on, like you cannot retain it. We can also help with intramurals, be it registration, and the fees associated with that, and also equipment. We can also cover diverse population issues, like many people came up here prior, so that being gender issues or multicultural issues or disability issues, we can help fund that. This is the travel portion. I'm going to hand it over to Ethan. We're to the second part of it, and after that we're going to pop up and talk about funding.
Hi, I'm Ethan. I'm one of the members of Budget Oversight that isn't in quarantine. So I'm with travel. That's kind of been my area of control this year, which has been super eventful, I can assure you, during coronavirus. But I'm just going to give you a couple main points. Funding is limited to $1,500. You get one request per academic year, so that's spring and fall semester. And gas, you have to do itemized receipts for that, and that's going to be with your own vehicles. We can't directly pay hotels. We would be able to pay if you had a member pay and then submit it again like gas with receipts. And this is a cool point, is that buses may be used, and you wouldn't have to include that in your travel budget, because those would kind of support if you had an event going on off campus, but in a local area. And I'm going to hand it back to Joe with event promotion and event.
So event promotion and advertising, this is stuff like t-shirts and your flyers that you hang around the GC or on campus. You have to submit those with your documentation and with the presence form. And your flyers must include these 5 things: the name of the event, the date, the time, and the location where it's occurring. And then a statement that simply says, made possible by the Student Activity Fund. That just lets everyone know that Allocations is funding it. So those are the 5 things: the name, the date, time, location, and the statement. For t-shirts and apparel, so there are certain rules that we have to abide by for that. Your t-shirt designs have to be attached to the documentation so we know what they look like. We also have to make sure you're purchasing these t-shirts not exclusively for your group. So if you are having an event and you want people running the event to have an exclusive shirt, sadly we cannot do that. Those t-shirts have to be open to the public and distributed at the event. We also cannot fund paraphernalia for marketing or recruitment purposes, so a bid day shirt or a rush shirt or just even a chess club shirt that's endorsing recruitment, we cannot fund that. Prizes is something we've changed up this year. Prizes, the vendors we used to allow were from Amazon or Walmart. Now we have to exclusively go through the bookstore. This streamlines the funding for that and purchase orders. And with that said, though, the bookstore has plenty of vendors and plenty of products they can get out to you, like AirPods, even clothing, other apparel items that can go towards prizes for events. So the rules for prizes are: a single prize cannot be over $250, and the overall quantity of the funding you can spend on a prize or prizes in total cannot exceed $750. Another rule is monetary prizes like gift cards. We cannot fund those, so it has to be a tangible item, not a gift card with a monetary value. For purchasing, you have to have it approved, so that's kind of a no-brainer. You have to meet with Ms. Juliet, and she'll go over what you're approved to purchase, and anything that you deviate from is considered an out-of-pocket expense, and you take that on yourself. So again, you have to meet and have explicit written approval from the Student Engagement Office and to be reimbursed. And you must have that done 3 weeks prior to the event. That's one of those dates that we highlight and make sure that you're Johnny on the spot with, is being 3 weeks prior before purchasing for an event. For contracts, you must have those initiated 4 weeks before the event happens. So you want to make sure that event's happening and what's on the flyer is happening. 4 weeks beforehand, you have to have that contract initiated. Other contractual obligations: the university is sponsored by Coke. Therefore, Pepsi products cannot be held or distributed at an event other than Coke. So again, Coke, you have to distribute Coke. So also within the university, there's an agreement with Chartwells. So if you're having an event on campus, you can't bring Domino's in. You'd have to bring in whatever Chartwells offers through their catering service. Unit dining, they require you to submit a purchase order at least 2 weeks before that event happens. And that's something you'll include in on your presence, and we'll go over that in a minute. Items that are not funded are parking passes for an event, or any event with alcohol, activities that charge a monetary admission, and travel expenses and events used for recruitment. So you can't, again, recruit with your funding money. A complete list of places you can approve, or that are approved and are satisfactory vendors, are in your manual again, page 10. So how funding works, again, this is the nuts and bolts of it, is you'll submit a request with a budget, itemized in presence. You also have your marketing materials and another itemized budget in a separate document. We'll review that in a minute. And then you must meet with Ms. Juliet 1 week after that documentation is approved. And then 1 week after the event happens, you must meet with Ms. Juliet again to submit an evaluation. Or not meet Ms. Juliet, but submit an evaluation through presence. So in order to do so, or failure to do so rather, you'll be denied allocation until you submit that evaluation form. So if you do not have your documentation laid out properly, submitted in the form, sadly we cannot fund it. That goes for links. If it's a messy document, we're not going to go reading through your PDF looking for the exact shirt or the exact cupcake you're wanting to get from Chartwell's. So we ask y'all be very concise and lay out your stuff very well in PDFs. And with that said, though, screenshots do work. So if you can screenshot stuff through Amazon or Walmart and throw it in a PDF document, we will approve it, as long as it's concise. So we've identified common mistakes that people make in allocation. There's stuff like not attaching a flyer with proper things we mentioned, like other stuff like not submitting the appropriate time, not turning in the evaluation form. That's something we've noticed big last year. Is people were having great events, but they weren't submitting that evaluation form, which precludes them from any more funding until it's turned in. Another issue is people will not be eligible to submit the documentation or the request. And then another one is people will get denied the first time and then they'll copy and paste and send the second one in. And lastly, t-shirt designs. T-shirt designs have to be in the marketing material, and we have to know what they look like before we film them. Other handy reminders: UNA's tax exempt, with the exception to hotel and airline flights. And if you have any questions, you can email me, meet with a student consultant, and almost anyone in the student engagement office will have answers for you regarding allocations. So now that the actual training is on the way, we're going to do a demo of what a request form looks like. But first, let me give a warning. Do not use a Microsoft browser like Edge or Internet Explorer, or it will not work. Presence does not like those browsers, so Mozilla Firefox or Chrome are the best options for this. It's pretty arbitrary, we don't really know why, but Mozilla Firefox and Google Chrome, they're the way to go. So right off the bat, the form will present you some boxes. So the first one is, have you attended allocation training? So the first answer is yes. You're here now. And then after that, it'll ask when the time or event will happen. So like we said beforehand, it must be 4 weeks before or 4 weeks after you submit the request. So that would be September 18th. There we go. 9/18. And it's going to happen at 2 o'clock. After that, we're going to go down and we're going to put in our group organization. So the group requesting funding is going to be the Student Government Association. I'll put my phone number in here. Put my email. Put the advisor email in. And then I'm going to put the actual event information in here. So, allergies, I swear. I'm going to put in ice cream social. And it's going to happen in the GUC atrium. It's going to be an event. This box is important because it opens up other boxes. So if I clicked event, it would open up things that pertain to event. If I clicked equipment or conference, it would open up other boxes that are respective to those categories. And click event. And here is where we put the money. So we're going to say $400 for this event. That's what we're requesting. And then down here, we're going to put a justification for the $400. So we're going to say this event is a escape for UNA students on a hot September day. Does not have to be long or elaborate, just a brief little sentence or blurb. And here is where we're going to put the expected attendance. So 100 coming through the breezeway in the GEC atrium. This is not going to be funded from outside. So my organization is not going to be providing money. And there's no other information we're going to be needing to give. So say NA. This event is going to be in the GEC, so we're going to click yes. We're not going to be showing a movie. This is important for, again, contract-related issues, so we'll have to go through and SWANK is a licensing group for films and such, so UPC uses them and the university uses them for movies. Down here, we're going to go and pick characteristics that apply for the event. This is for police and any security that is needed at an event. So this event does not have anything that pertains to it. I want to say none of the above. And we're going to be clicking no on large format posters. We're going to do those ourselves. So this is the actual presence budget you're going to whip up. So first we're going to say how many vendors we're going to use. We're going to have 3. We're going to have Chartwells for our ice cream. We're going to have T-shirt Co. for our marketing. Then we're going to have Amazon for our tableware. So we're going to say Chartwells, or 3 rather, for the number of vendors. One of those vendors is UNA's dining service, so we're going to click yes. And then here we're going to put the Cater Tracks number. Chartwells will give you a number that references your specific order. So we're going to say that down there. Our first vendor will be Chartwells. And we're requesting $100 for ice cream from Chartwells. Our second vendor will be T-shirt Co. And then we are going to be requesting another $200 from them. And that is going to be our second vendor. Our third one is going to be Amazon. We're requesting $100 from them. So we've already done our budget and presence. We filled out all the event and location information. So now for the PDF documentation. So first is our budget. So this is going to be the stuff from Amazon, the stuff from Chartwells, and the stuff from T-shirt Co. Submit the budget, all the receipts for the purchase information on prices. And lastly, we're going to submit our marketing. So that would be the T-shirt and the flyer we're going to put up. So down here, put marketing PDF from there. The marketing PDF is attached. And that's it in the form for events. So we'll scroll up to the top, review everything as you go up. We have our green button. We're going to submit it for approval. But that's the end of the presentation for the demo. So I'm going to hand it back over to Tyler. He's going to run you through some Q&A stuff and any other information. deems necessary.
Thanks, Joe. Of course, if you have any questions, stick around. I think we did roll already. Anyone not here when we did roll? Okay. Yeah, he's in? Okay, good. I have a couple of questions to ask. If you're applying for an allocation, and I used the travel example, I know we can't travel in the fall, but if there are a couple of airlines tickets, should you choose the least expensive or the more expensive option? Who says least expensive? More expensive. Who is, oh my goodness, wake up, it's almost the weekend. Okay, I'll ask again, least expensive, more expensive, yeah. Okay, who has no earthly idea? Okay, so do a little bit more expensive. Don't do the least expensive option because prices change over time. You can only get what you've been allocated. So make sure if we find a less expensive option, we'll try to do that. But you want to cushion your allocation request so that you've got enough. I'm not saying like first class airline, all this kind of stuff, but don't find the dirt cheap stuff. Also, it needs to be through the airline. It is much better when things happen and there's some kind of, what's the word I'm looking for, shady operations, it seems like. And so please use the actual airlines. The other thing is, this academic year, I put a little forward in this, so it's not really, it is in the manual, but it's just a heads up. Hosting events and travel will certainly prove more challenging this year, and travel is not permitted for the fall. University and state mandates supersede this manual. At the same time, we value providing the in-person experience. That's what we're trying to do this year, because we know that's what we need it. I mean, I need it. I may have already said that to y'all, but it's important. But we ask that you're proactive in minimizing the risk of transmitting illness. So it includes maintaining small numbers at events, restricting access to members of the UNA community, and hosting events in university-managed venues. So places that we know are like this spacing here, and also in the changing environment, it is likely that some events could require cancellation without warning. And so help us minimize the financial risk to the fund by minimizing things that you contract with, because beforehand, our contracts for the fall, we had force majeure. That's a term in a contract. It's just an act that you have no control over. So those things were wiped away because there was a pandemic. But now we know the pandemic is here. So if we make contracts with people to do certain things, and then we have to shut down as an institution, for a week or something like that, or we have to suspend events for certain days or something like that, then we lose those funds. So we want to try to protect that so we can do things when we're able to do things. And so if we can not have those big contractual obligations, that would be helpful. And of course, minimize you and your organization's financial risk by not committing supplemental funding to any funded activity. So don't do the out-of-pocket stuff and say, well, we're going to do $4,000 from the fund because that's what we can do, and then we're going to also pay out of our organization's budget or out of pockets. Because here's the thing, if things shut down, especially if it's allocation, no doubt you won't be able to do it. So if you've added your own funds to it, we've lost potentially funds from the fund, and that stings, but at least it's not hurting you and your organization directly. But if you've put some in it, then you've lost yours as well. And so minimize those things. Remember, you don't have to have the big giant events to have a meaningful experience. And I know everybody's been cooped up and shut up, and it's just a desire to get and be together with other people. But we got to be proactive in these things. And remember, what are the meaningful moments in your life? Is it 1,000 people around you, or is it the 2, 3, 4, 5 people that are around you that make those meaningful moments? And you can do that and have an impact on campus without trying to have giant gatherings. And then finally, student engagement, we ask for your patience and understanding, knowing that there may be inconsistencies with how we respond to uncontrollable variables. So 2 things I can't create: time and space. If anybody here can do that, come see me afterwards. I'd really like to talk to you. And but if we don't have the capacity, we don't know what it's going to look like with office and everything, with the coming days and things like that. So we may not be able to be exactly consistent. It's not favoritism. It's based off what are the resources, including time and people, that we have, and what's the complexity of the request that you have. And so please just be patient. We're going to do our best. That's what we're committed to, doing our very best in the situation that we have. And the other thing is, do you know how to get to the form? Okay. What's the organization where the form is located? Anyone? If somebody says it, then you get out faster. Let's see. Okay. These are the common questions that we get, and so what will happen? Undoubtedly, someone will say, "I can't find a form," and I'll say, "Remember." That's what happens every year. Remember, it's hidden. Here's the thing. It's hidden because only people that come to the training have access to those resources. So here's presents. Drop a pen. So you have to go to organizations. By attending this, you're going to be added to the RSO Leaders, Events, and Allocation Certified group. This group gives you access to the form. And so you click the group, click the forms. So everyone will see these on like the regular forms tab. But then once you're a member of this group, and you're logged in, you'll see this one. So if you're not seeing it, first of all, make sure you're logged in up here. So see, I am, but log out, I wouldn't. Also, a lot of times people just go to forms. And I understand the confusion, but this is just the forms that are available on campus to everyone. You're not going to see it. And I probably confuse the people. You see the appeal form and you see the evaluation form. You're not going to see the student allocation form because you got to be getting it from that portal. What is the only reason you can appeal a decision? What if you have the marketing material, you just forgot to submit it, but it was ready, it's good, you just didn't submit it? Can you appeal the decision for that reason? No. It's the one thing. It's if you find in the manual where the committee didn't follow, because what happens if something is denied, we cite it in the manual why it was denied. So try to do that so you understand for the next request that you do what here's what you need to do to get it right. Finally, it may seem complicated, but remember, it may be 5 extra minutes. So not putting just links down, but putting those pictures and taking the time to actually do the picture all in one document. Well, that maybe took you 5 more minutes to do that. You're like, 5 more minutes. I get it, when you're doing stuff. But you took 5 more minutes. Well, there's a committee of 5, plus myself and Juliet, that review things so they can come in and know what's going on. So your 5 minutes, when they have to take the 5 minutes, it's multiplied by 5, and then times, there might be 10 reviews that day. So you take an extra 5 minutes and save them 5 hours across the board. So that's one of the things that we want to be able to review as many things as possible, and streamlining is what makes it possible to handle all the requests. So finally, if anything if you're wondering, like, okay, I go by the PowerPoint or what we heard today or the manual, this is the key. It's all here. So have it out when you're doing your request. That's what I recommend. That's what I would do when I was in school. We had something very similar. I had the book out. And I read it right before, make sure I had everything correct, and then as I was putting it in, I made sure and I did it out of the book. It's free money. So I'm going to take a little extra time to make sure that I get it. So thank you again for what you do. You are in the driver's seat in so many things this year. It's going to be challenging, but I know we're going to grow and learn from each other and have a stronger institution for what we accomplished this year. So if you have questions, stick around. Otherwise, have a good weekend. Please remember to keep people safe.